Since becoming legal in Nevada in the late 1940s, sports betting has been a pastime for common folk and hardcore gamblers. Over 24 states, including Washington, D.C., have since legalized some form of sports gambling. That number, however, is too low. Minnesota is now one of the 24 states that have legalized sports gambling at a state level. It is my goal in this speech to persuade you on why it should be one of the next few states to allow, because of the growth it will have in our economy and the promotion of a safer and healthier gambling experience. Now, for a little bit of history on the sports betting industry, it was first established in 1949, in Nevada being the first state to capitalize. The state was hoping to rejuvenate its gambling and tourism industry in Vegas, according to sportshandle.com. America had a huge opening for the sports betting market, and Vegas took an early jump and has since never looked back. Now, the early days of sports betting market were littered with the mob and other illegal services. Mobsters such as Frank Rosenthal were major contributors to the arrival of sports betting in Vegas. Rosenthal has once been called the greatest living expert on sports gambling by Sports Illustrated. Also, from the 1960s to the mid-2010s, Congress has tried to crush the sports gambling industry with laws such as the Travel Act of 1961 and the Federal Wire Act, which attempted to diminish the impact that Vegas and illegal sports bookmakers had on the population. Another act, known as PASPA, or the Professional and Amateur Sports Protection Act, effectively banned states other than Nevada from legalizing sports gambling. Now, going into my first point, the sports gambling business has been booming recently. In 2020, it had a market size of over $200 billion US, according to Statistica.com. If legalized in Minnesota, it would bring millions of dollars in local taxes and would create more jobs in our state. Forging the path to legalize sports gambling, PASPA was struck down in 2018. As previously stated, over 24 states have legalized sports betting since PASPA has been struck down. If sports gambling were to be legalized in Minnesota, it could stand to make over millions of dollars from tax revenue alone. Say state governments were to tax roughly 2.5% of all sportsbook holdings. That would result in a huge amount of tax dollars that could be used for better schools, roads, and highways, and other services provided by Minnesota tax dollars. The existence of legalized sports betting would also create many jobs. It would generate even more opportunities at existing casinos and would result in the creation of even more sports books, which then in and of itself would create more jobs. The American Gaming Association has said legalized sports betting could create over 150,000 jobs in the United States. Also, the resulting business from sports betting at casinos would also benefit other local businesses. Say Grand Casino in Hinckley were able to allow sports gambling. The amount of traffic going to Grand Casino would provide additional revenue to other restaurants, shops, and local businesses in close proximity to the casino in Hinckley. Now, to my next point, the legalization of sports gambling will create a safer and healthier gambling experience for all people. Thousands of people right now use offshore sportsbook entities and or illegal bookies. This creates a completely unregulated market, subjected only by the rules of your bookie or a foreign country. Transactions produced by bookies are also extremely shady. They usually result in credit card fraud and or other legal penalties and punishments. Now, if Minnesota were to be the sole operator of sports betting in our state, then rules and regulations would be subjected to more honest, safe, and secure transactions, according to Sports Handle. The number of illegal bookies would largely decrease, and people would turn to the safer and more legal option if available. More help would also become available for those with addictions and or problems with gambling. Since Minnesota would be the operator and regulator, they would be more inclined to create a safer gambling experience for all of its citizens who choose to participate. Now, in conclusion, sports betting has been a huge force in our country since the inception of sports and casinos, with the business being one of the highest generators of revenue in any state market. I've gone over the history and the reasons on why Minnesota should be the next state to legalize sports gambling. It would create a huge economic growth and create a healthier and safer gambling experience for all who those to choose to participate. So I encourage you all to speak out for the legalization and regulation of sports gambling in our state.